Hi there, welcome to Terraland Soap Opera. Today I'm going to do a reading for Aquarius energy. And like usual on this channel, we're going to do two rows. The top row I refer to as high vibe Aquarius energy. The bottom row, a more worldly, shadowy Aquarius energy. We all have our dualistic nature of free will and we have to make decisions in our life. And some people could be battling within themselves. The high vibe row can represent some things that we would like to do. Maybe we'd like to do some things differently, but the bottom row can kind of represent our comfort zone. And to do things differently, we have to step out of our comfort zone. We might have to detach from certain habits or patterns or something to incorporate new habits or patterns. And so that can be difficult. Sometimes when we change habits or patterns, maybe we hang out with people where we do those habits and patterns, and so maybe we'd have to detach from some people in our life, and that could be like changing jobs or anything like that, and that can all be scary. And so some people could still be debating within themselves. Other people completed debating and they did decide to move forward in life a little differently. And sometimes, we're the ones who aren't ready to move forward differently and other people move on from us. Sometimes we're the one ready to move forward and other people aren't ready to move forward in that way. And then that can be difficult because Aquarius has to do with, well, it's air sign energy of the mind, and it can be about how we look at life. In high vibe, it would be trying to look at life from a higher perspective and getting all caught up in your head and kind of letting love and intuition guide you versus more your worldly nature or your fear, your insecurity, or your codependency, or your lust, or your greed, or your pride, or your ego, or your lazy nature, any of those things. And some people, they're not debating within themselves and they're fine living their life the way they are. We all start to maybe, we all go through phases of life, and when we're in the midst of a phase of life, we're okay. We have no interest in moving forward differently yet, so we're all kind of on different pages. Let's go look at the bottom row. The reason for the bottom row's reading is the Wheel of Fortune, and then we have the Ten of Swords. So the tens can be a completion of a cycle. Some people aren't ready to complete a cycle. They're not there yet. They're still in the midst of moving forward, is what the Wheel of Fortune can talk about. Living their life a certain way, and they don't have a problem with it so far, right? And it's just kind of like when we were 15, 18, 21, and 25, we were fine living life at those phases of life. And it's not till kind of later where we kind of think, you know, until we kind of realize, oh, I've kind of learned what I needed to learn here. And then we have the free will choice. Do I keep doing this anyway? Or do I accept that I did kind of learn everything here and it is time for me to face my fears about going to the next phase of life? And we start out at the top rose reading with the Justice card. We go on this journey of life to learn lessons. Again, were we going to stay being 18, 21, or 25, for example, all our life? Wasn't part of our dream to keep learning lessons and facing our fears, to keep going to the next phase of life and getting the justice we deserve? And some people could get to, at any time, someone can decide to just stay there. Like, nope, I know I'm not. High vibe energy, love gives birth to new things. And some people are like, no, if their fear of moving forward in life differently or something outweighs the fact that they feel like they're not giving birth to anything new, but they'd rather not give birth to anything new than face their fear or something, maybe speak their truth, accept the truth. Because after the Ten of Swords, you come out with the One Sword. And that could be that you'd have to tell people, I don't want to keep moving forward like this. I think having gone through this experience, was it great? Yeah, but I am kind of ready to do life differently, and you'd have to kind of communicate your truth, maybe to some other people in your life about how you'd like to move forward differently. And some people might not want to do that because they think the other people in their life still aren't there yet. And kind of like, if they're not ready to move forward in life differently, I'm not going to move forward in life differently. So, and we've all been there. We have the Eight of Pentacles, the Hierophant, the High Priestess, the Seven of Pentacles, and the Moon card. So we can all move forward in something. The Eight of Pentacles is we're putting in kind of work and effort, and the Hierophant can talk about a certain way of living life, viewing life, a philosophy of life that we have. Wherein the Hierophant can represent all these different institutions of the world that we could be a part of, our family, a friendship group, a workplace. And so we have a certain way of viewing life. And we're pretty sure that that is, we're on the right path. That can be kind of what the Wheel of Fortune is. We think, nope, this is how to go. This is the way for the Wheel of Fate to turn in my favor. And we move forward living life that way. Then the High Priestess coming out could be where kind of like our intuition, the moon also in Pisces energy can talk about our intuition, and the High Priestess is Cancer and Pisces, two emotional water signs. These two are Virgo and Taurus, earth sign energy. It's kind of like our more emotionally intuitive nature, and the High Priestess can kind of represent our higher self, our soul. We came here to kind of grow and mature ourselves and face our fears, right? We weren't going to let the world and our own fear and insecurity and immature nature and other people in the world kind of manipulate us from shining our light in the world, pursuing our dreams. And so then our higher self can kind of tell us that we might want to start thinking about maybe investing more into listening to our intuition. And the moon can also talk about our fears, about working through some of our fears and insecurities, because we're kind of getting close to completing a cycle. And it's just, you know, I sometimes equate it to human beings being like an apple tree. An apple tree doesn't have free will, and so it will grow so much, then it'll go through a period of kind of healing and growing at that stage, or maturing at that stage, and then it doesn't have a choice. It's kind of like built into its system that when it's time for it to close out that phase, and then it's time to grow again, to go to the next phase of life and grow bigger, and stretch further, and it does it doesn't have a choice. But we as human beings have a choice. So we have our intuition, which tells us it's kind of time to start thinking of working through some of our fears and insecurities, about continuing on our journey. But we have free will. And so even though some people's intuition could tell them, I think you should invest less in repeating some of these old patterns from the 8 down to the 7, that there's some things we should quit investing in, a certain way of thinking, feeling about ourselves, viewing ourselves, what we believe is possible, certain habits, patterns, vices. And instead we should maybe start working through maybe some of our fears about why we have some fear about detaching from those things, and maybe more connect in with our intuition and think about, the character here is looking at that distant horizon. If I want to get to that distant horizon, I kind of need to see the truth, because the truth sets us free. I kind of need to see the truth of things that are stopping me from moving forward, don't want me to move forward, don't want me to maybe love and believe in myself and believe in my dreams. And then we can be in jobs, friendships, or relationships with other people who their intuition could tell them to quit investing in some of those habits or patterns or ways of viewing life, or acting or interacting with other people that aren't conducive to things moving forward. But they could just decide, to ignore that, and the moon then can be where we'd rather stay in denial of the truth. I don't want to listen to my intuition. My intuition is telling me I should maybe work through my fears and insecurities. Well, we have our prideful, egotistical nature. I don't think I have to deal with those things. Well, we can keep staying in denial of the truth. The moon is the opposite of the sun, which the sun would be illuminating the truth and dealing with the truth. And some people can choose, no, I'm not going to listen to my intuition. No, I'm not going to work through my fears and my insecurities. I'm not going to work through my past pain and heartbreak. I don't want to step out of my comfort zone. I don't want to do things different. I'm sure everything will move forward the same as it always has, and I can just keep doing this. But the thing is, life doesn't stay static. We can stay static, but the rest of the world moves on. So if we repeat certain habits and patterns, we could have people who we're hanging out with that are repeating some of those same ways of living life and viewing life. But those people could be, as they grow and mature, could decide to move forward in life differently. Can we find new people to hang out with? Yeah, but it kind of keeps us static, where we're not growing and healing and maturing ourselves, not facing our fears, not wanting to look at life from a different perspective. Aquarius energy is represented by the star card. And so it can be, no, I think it should be more about me. Well, people who could be more just about themselves, they can get people to be in friendship and relationship with them. But eventually people kind of see through the illusion, and they could kind of realize as they get to know people and work with people and listening to their intuition that this person seems to be just more about themselves. And then those people could decide to move on. um, some people, shadowy energy in the Aquarius star card, it can be, I'm more about these things of the world. I think this is the answer. This is what's going to make me happy. And that could be things they indulge in, drugs, food, booze, gambling. This is what I look to make me happy, or money, status, image, or being more about myself. And they can get in friendships and relationships with people who enjoy some of those things of the world too. But if over time the other people, they could have been more balanced from the beginning, the Justice card representing Libra energy, can be that some people in their own Libra and Aquarius energy within themselves, they do have more hope and faith and belief in love. Can there be things that they enjoy investing time, energy, and effort into? And, we all want, with these two cards being Pentacle energy, it can talk about these things of the world that we want. We can all want friendship, relationship. We can all like certain things that we all have in common. Yeah, I might like to eat. I might like to do some of these things in the world. I'm kind of looking for people who enjoy some of those things too. We have those things in common to a degree, but the other people could be like, for one, that might be a phase of life I go through. I didn't plan to live my life that way forever. And the other people were planning to live their life that way forever. And that's when the other people are like, yeah, no, if I want my dream to come into reality, some of these habits or vices or things that I make important in my life kind of stop me from getting the justice I deserve. And they learn to quit investing in certain ways of being if they want to move their life forward to a certain degree. High vibe energy is about being more balanced. The world and things in the world are meant to be enjoyed to a degree. Go enjoy life, but in balance. Don't make those things so important in your life that they become like more important than um, continuing to like love and believe in yourself, and you know giving them so much priority in your life, or those things so much priority in your life, that you're maybe feel like you sacrificed your dreams, because the Ten of Swords can be about feeling like backstabbed and betrayed. We have to see what things are working, trying to work with us, and in moderation, we can enjoy certain things in life and we can still move forward in our life. What are the things that have gotten too significant in our life, or such a priority in our life, or we give too much power over to, in a way that we didn't even maybe see how it was stopping us from moving forward, and continuing to like love and believe in ourselves. Some people could, the Hierophant, and can be a certain philosophy of life that people have. Some people have a certain way of viewing life that they think is just and fair, and how they want to live their life and how they view life and maybe how they treat other people. And they have no interest in changing because, again, they could have a fear of change. And shadowy energy can be more about maybe trying to control and manipulate people, living more from your mind than your heart, not willing to kind of more go with the flow and be willing to kind of be a student of life and learn lessons in life and realize maybe where some of those are kind of stubborn or prideful, or uh and that's fine. Everybody can live their life the way they want. They just need to find other people who think that's okay too. And agree with that, right? So there could be people in the world that harness this energy in a very shadowy way. They could be very much about themselves, or making their life about the most important thing is to have a certain status and image in the world. And then it doesn't matter. um, I'll stay in job, friendships, and relationships. I don't care if I love them. I don't care if they love me. The most important thing is that I have a certain status and image, and I look like a shining star in the world, willing to sacrifice. And that's kind of interesting too, because the Ten of Swords is Gemini energy, which is about our dualistic free will. We have the free will to align with our more hopeful, believing, loving nature, and kind of sacrifice our more worldly, shadowy nature. I'm not going to make my life just more about me. I'm not going to make my life just more about these things I indulge in. I'm not going to make things of the world so important in my life that I sacrifice my truth and what I love and what's aligned with truth and love in order to have those things of the world. And that can be shadowy Taurus, of like conforming to the world, where you don't shine your more authentic light in the world and you make your life more about conforming to the world. Well, if everybody had conformed to the world back when we were cave people, we'd still be cave people. But Virgo here can talk about, we can harness this in a more worldly view and conform to the world, but we were all given our own unique talent, skills, and interests, and we were all given our creative, inspired, intuitive nature, because high vibe energy represented like God at the big picture, shadowy energy represented by like the devil at the big picture, living in a world of duality, of these battling forces within us and in the world. We cannot give birth to anything new, or we can listen to our intuition, invest in our unique talent, skills, and interests, face our fears and our insecurities, and we can keep shedding layers of our old egoic nature as we go through life. I'm going to quit investing in certain ways of living life and viewing life like I did at age 15, 18, 21, 25, etc. as I go through life. That was a stage of life. I needed to learn lessons at that stage of life. I'm willing to work through my fears about learning those lessons and accepting the truth of those lessons and seeing what should go and what I should take with me. Like, what are the good building blocks to take with, and what are the things I've learned I shouldn't take with. I've kind of outgrown that phase that was more immature. It was more prideful, more stubborn, more lazy, more immature, more self-indulgent. And you know, as I go through my life and I'm working with people, kind of seeing who, as I get to know them, harnesses those energies, maybe in a way like I could have at different stages of life. But that's not where I'm at anymore. You know, I want to maybe, to get the justice I deserve, I might need to detach from some of those habits, patterns, vices, and people and workplaces. And I need to work through my own fears and insecurities of letting them go, or those vices. High vibe energy is about being more independent. And, you know, if we realize as we're working together, again, the Hierophant and Taurus energy can represent all these different groups that we come in contact with, friendship groups, romantic relationships, workplaces, organizations. You know, we work with people, but then we can kind of get an idea of who really is who they say they are, who really has learned some of those lessons and put some of those old, more shadowy or immature or bossy or controlling or whatever ways of being or being full of themselves behind them. Who really learned those lessons, who didn't. And the people who I think are just creating an illusion and they really haven't learned those lessons and they could repeat old patterns, you know, like you move forward with them, you think things are going to change, but things don't change and they keep repeating some old patterns. You know, all of us could have been in those situations, and you know, because they could be a long-term friend, family member, we've worked at that job, there can be stability and security there. You know, all those things are things for us to work through. And it can take time, and some people are all at these different stages there with different people in their life. It's just that some people eventually work through all of it, all the mental conflict, all the fears. I do want things to move forward in a more just and fair way. That means I need to work together with other people who have learned some of the same lessons that I have, tempered some of these old ways of thinking or believing or behaving to a degree that I have. And there's always people further along the path of life than we are. Um, and just like you could do this with some people in your life, that you could feel like, well, I feel like they're more caught up in the world. I could feel they're more codependent. I could feel like they're afraid of stepping out of their comfort zone. Don't want to deal with the truth of something. Well, the people in your life that you could feel that way about, they in turn could have people in their life that they feel that way about, you know? And so we can all kind of distance ourselves from certain patterns, habits, and vices, but it doesn't necessarily mean we're still on the same page. It's like a 15-year-old can quit certain habits, patterns, and vices. Some other 15-year-olds are almost more like, say, like a 21-year-old, for example. You know, they didn't have those things and manipulate them to that degree. And so in the world, we kind of use, we think of age as kind of reflecting people's certain maturity level, but really it's emotionally kind of more their emotional maturity level. We could know people who are 45 and they kind of have a mentality level of like an 18 to a 25-year-old. There's a lot of lessons that they haven't learned in life. And so then we could know other people who are 18 to 25 who are much more mature, stable, grounded, work more cooperatively with people than some people who are 45, right? It's just to kind of listen to our intuition about who's who. Does that mean, I mean, just because people could have a certain maturity level, we can acknowledge if we're just kind of looking to work together with people that are more just and fair in the Three of Cups, in Cancer energy, operate more from a foundation of love. They've learned how to maintain balance within themselves. Because shadowy energy can be that people are kind of tipped out of balance. They're more about themselves or some things that they make more important. They maybe haven't learned some lessons that some other people have learned to be more balanced within themselves. And again, you could feel that way towards people in your life. Those people in turn to other people. They could be more balanced than some other people in their life. You could be more balanced. You know, it's kind of like these grade levels in school also. It's like if everybody's like an 8th or a 10th grader in the school of life, or if some people are like an 8th or a 10th grader, the people that are in the lower level, everybody could kind of not want to be around them, and, they're going to go hang out with people who are more on the same page as they are. And we're all just at different emotional maturity levels. We've all learned different lessons in life. But we have to see the truth as we get to live our life, face our fears, listen to our intuition about the different people. If we have a dream and we want things to move forward and close out a cycle, to keep moving forward, we could have people in our life that just, they're happy living their life the way they do. Could it be quite shadowy? Could it be much more materialistic, much more stubborn, much more prideful? Could they be people, shadowy high priestess could be being secretive, the moon can be being secretive, not revealing the truth. Some people are just looking to be in relationships and get jobs, just if it seems like a good investment at the time. And it's not really about wanting to be more just and fair, working together with people from love. The 5s can talk about change, which is Aquarius energy. Some people aren't motivated to heal or grow and mature themselves and take action in a more emotionally mature, just fair way, treat other people the way they like to be treated, or authentically more invest themselves in situations, right? It's like somebody can come look for a job. They come get a job. The people at the job are hoping people are motivated and inspired to work there, just like if we get in a relationship with someone. But anybody can wear a false mask. People can pretend they're more just and fair and balanced, and that's like their idea. I have an idea. They get in friendships, jobs, relationships. As time goes by, it maybe doesn't work out the way they thought. They could have learned during that what people did and didn't like, but their decision is just to hide it beneath the surface. Oh, some people thought I was too bossy and controlling. They don't see the truth of working through why they're bossy and controlling. That would be doing this inner work within themselves to figure out why they act that way, because Taurus is kind of like the Supreme Court in our head. We have these ways of living life and viewing life, and we think those ways of living life and viewing life and treating other people is just and fair. Well, if we keep having people who don't want to be in friendship or relationship, or we get fired from a job, are we willing to see what it is about a way that we could treat people, way we could act towards people, if we do or don't put in really work and effort? And so some people just decide, I don't want to. They hide that they're more of a 7 of Pentacles person instead of like an 8 of Pentacles person. But they can try to present themselves initially like they are an 8 of Pentacles person. Like, I am willing to put in work and effort to, like, see where I might need to heal and grow and mature myself, temper my ego, temper my bossy nature, immature nature, to work together with people kind of more cooperatively, and hopefully emotionally become more independent of being more about themselves and just how it benefits them, to work together with people to bring a common dream into reality. But they hide their more of the 7 of Pentacles, and I view the 7s as kind of like the tipping point. You're either a little more in favor in your Gemini nature of free will to be motivated and inspired emotionally and in how you view life, that life is about learning lessons. Life, I don't know everything. Who at what stage of life thinks, they know everything? They don't have to change. There's nothing about them that needs to change. It's everyone else who needs to change. Well, when we're going to work together with other people, part of us being needing to willing to change is if we're working with people who are just and fair and loving and they're willing to change and compromise with people, knowing it's not just going to be their way or the highway. it's like trying to bring a common dream into reality, and the way we might have gone about things in different friendships or relationships or jobs isn't the same way we can just go about it with other people. But some people think, well, no, it should be just like that. And then it's kind of like trying to get other people to fit a mold. Like, I want you to replace these other people or be just like these other people, interact with me just like those people did. But with every person you're in a friendship or relationship, it's different. There's different people, there's different ingredients, there's different things that motivate and inspire them. They have different dreams, they have different ways of viewing life. And there's some people in the world that they do have either a more worldly view of life, and they refuse to really have more hope and faith and belief in themselves and in others and in love, and to look at life from a higher perspective. For some, the most important thing, it's all about getting in a relationship, to be in a relationship, or have a job, more for the status, the ego, and the image. And for some people, that is their truth, and they will never look at life any differently. It's just not the way they think. For other people, it's always more about it being about them. And shadowy energy can be, again, where they want to be more kind of like the privileged, pampered person in the relationship. And they really don't want to put in, they want to look like, and they want it to maybe look good. And so initially they'll present themselves as someone who's motivated and inspired by love and to be just and fair and work cooperatively together and invest in it authentically and put in work and effort. But then once they can get people to invest in them, they kind of use their intuition in a shadowy way. Like, let's move forward in this. And then when I think, I've been in the job long enough, or I've been in the friendship or the relationship long enough, well, shadowy energy can be, I think it's just and fair to try to manipulate people to get what I want. And then they change. They're not who they presented themselves to be at the start of it. Well, now I'm not going to really put in as much work and effort. And well, now, it's kind of like, I want the other person to put in more work and effort. And then shadowy people can try to manipulate people who are more just and fair and loving, because those people do put in a lot of work and effort to try to make things just and fair and balanced and loving and move things forward. And they're like, that's great, you keep doing that. I'm hiding that I don't really want to do that. That's not my truth. Not my truth. But it's good for my ego and image to be in a relationship with people who are like that, because then it makes them, creates this illusion that that's the truth of who they are. And then other people think, well, they must be a more just and fair, motivated and inspired by love, put in work and effort to make a relationship work, and, work cooperatively with people. But eventually, people, when they're in a more mismatched relationship, the other people kind of see through the illusion. They have mental conflict about staying in it because they see the truth. I'm the one putting in most of the work and effort to move this forward in a more just and fair and loving way, and kind of realize they're not in a relationship with someone else who's like that. How can your dream come into reality? There's a house divided can't stand. If one person is trying to move things forward with this truth, the other person is trying to move it forward with this truth, you're kind of going in different directions, right? Well, that's when other people could stand up for themselves, and it's like, I'm not going to keep moving forward in this. Whatever I thought was ever going to come of this, I see is never going to come from this. Because the people I'm working with, that has to be their truth also. And if that's not their truth, my dream can't come into reality with them. So, kind of out of the fact that I'm not willing to settle for the illusion, I'm not willing to keep investing in an illusion. If this isn't more inspired to work together cooperatively in a just and fair way, and if it's romantic, inspired by love, and kind of realize the other people really maybe don't do love because they had the free will to say, nope, I'm not doing love. I'd have to come out from behind my defensive egoic nature to do love. And I view the King of Swords can be a person's self-protected defensive nature, whether they're male or female. And people move forward with them in a relationship, and that's when they eventually kind of realize that this person's never going to come out from behind their ego to let their more hopeful, believing, loving nature out to play. No, this is the world. The ground can like represent the world, and then the swords. But never kind of be willing to connect in more with their more emotionally intuitive, hopeful, believing, loving nature. I know I get hurt in there. And you just realize it's never going to become a more deep, meaningful relationship because it's like you're in a relationship with someone who lives more from their mind than their heart. Their maybe self-protected defensive nature is willing to maybe stay in it because of the stability, the security, and there can be love there, but not willing to, or just realizing that's more of what drives and motivates them, and it's not love. And you could stay in it for the status, the ego, the image of it, but then it's kind of more of a superficial, shallow relationship. I was like, I had a dream of being in a just and fair, loving relationship, motivated and inspired by love. And even though people have mental conflict about change and speaking their truth and standing up for themselves, eventually they work through that and they do. And it's like, I'm not willing to sacrifice my dream. And the reason for the top rose reading is the Nine of Cups. Like the moon is Pisces energy, which, like Aquarius, it talks about our dreams, but Aquarius could be more from our mind. What is our idea of the dream life? And Pisces is also connecting in more with our emotions. And some people don't really invest. The Seven of Pentacles can talk about investing. They don't really invest in getting more balanced within themselves. They create the illusion they are, but they like to live more from their mind than their heart. And then you could feel like you're in a relationship with someone who harnesses a more shadowy Pisces energy, again, which is more about indulging themselves in the relationship. And it's like, but I don't want to be in a relationship with someone who's in the relationship because this seems like a good investment. This works for them, but it's more about them indulging in it, but not authentically investing in it and living more from their mind than their heart. It needs to be balanced. And if they're not willing to get more balance within themselves, to quit living more from their mind than their heart, quit being more about themselves or the world or the ego or the image aspect of it, it's supposed to be balanced. Do we all want stability and security and all those things? Enjoy some of the finer things in life? Yeah. High vibe people aren't willing to sacrifice truth and love in order to have those things. Other people could have decided a long time ago they were. And they decided they think in their Libra energy and Aquarius energy and Taurus and Cancer and Virgo and Pisces that they think they're willing to sacrifice those things. The most important thing is to not get hurt, and shadowy energy can be where people, it is kind of more living more from your mind than your heart. It's like outwit, outplay, outstrategize, because in their philosophy of life, everybody is more just about themselves, because that is their kind of what they align with in their free will, is a certain way of viewing life, that everybody's kind of just more out for themselves. Everybody wants it to be more their way. And they could view loving people, just use love to try to manipulate them. And they will, probably because they've been in relationships with people who they viewed as loving and just and fair. And then as they move forward with those people, they could realize that those people were more bossy, controlling, didn't want them to be more independent, didn't want them to kind of more love and believe in themselves, make their life more about indulging them. And so they could have just decided, hey, if that's the way of the world, I'm not gonna invest in people anymore. And if people just manipulate loving people, well, I'm going to be one of the people who goes and manipulates loving people. And then they go try to manipulate loving people. But, they had the free will choice when they were in relationships with people who are started being more bossy or controlling or manipulative to stand up for themselves. But it's hard if you were a child because you were codependent on those people. And also, you were dependent on those people for your stability and security, and I don't know, maybe more afraid that they wouldn't, maybe if it's like family and family money, that they wouldn't, they could have really frowned on people being more independent, and people could have felt like they wouldn't give them inheritance or something. And so then they kind of sacrificed, and that's like the devil. The devil tries to use these things of the world to try to manipulate and control people. I don't want you being more independent. I don't want you to live your life any differently than I live my life. If I'm these certain ways of being, you should indulge me in viewing me as a just and fair and loving person, never see through the illusion, never tell anybody that I am more bossy or controlling or manipulative or whatever. Just keep maintaining the illusion. And, the younger that happens for someone, the more they could be willing to. It's so a part of their being, and that's also what Taurus can talk about. All these different things that get impressed upon us throughout our life, from our original family, from our friendship group, from our, you could have things going on in a neighborhood, a city, a state, a country, where everyone know nobody tell the truth, nobody see the truth, lets everybody stay in denial of the truth. Let's not be independent, and people who do become more independent, let's backstab those people. Let's not invest in those people because they think, feel, look at life differently. It's kind of like the cave people, if you were to equate it back then. If somebody said, you know what? I have this, I have my intuition, I have my own unique skills and interests, and my intuition is telling me I think we could do things differently. I think I could dig a trench to make where we could go to the bathroom and it all drains downhill instead of sitting in the pool of poop where it's sitting. And all the other people could have been like, that's different. No one else has ever done anything different. We have to do everything the same way. That's scary. That's change. What if it doesn't work? And high vibe energy is like, I know everything I don't go pursue is going to work out. But from everything I do go pursue, I'm going to learn more lessons. I'm going to learn what worked, what didn't work. And some people are so afraid of things not working or doing things different that they're unwilling to do it. Like, how many times did it take to make the light bulb work? I'm glad they didn't give up on the light bulb. How many times did it take to get to where we have a jet airliner? I'm glad they kept going. How many times did it take to, couple decades ago, a cell phone would have seemed like alien technology that would never exist on this planet. I'm glad they have it. But there can always be people in the business world, in friendship groups, in family dynamics, in community, states, and countries. There's always going to be the people who are like, no, we shouldn't do anything different. We'd have to listen to our intuition. And that's how I view high vibe Aquarius, is adhering to a higher truth and justice. I have my creative, inspired, intuitive nature. Can we all kind of like this the way it is and it seems stable and abundant and secure? Are we ever giving birth to anything new, or do we just keep creating, hiding from the truth, creating an illusion? Everything's fine, but we never give birth to anything new. Well, some people in those groups are like, that's fine, you can do that. I can't keep doing that because I keep feeling stuck, stifle, and that's the devil. The devil tries to make you oppress you, limit you, restrict you, confine you, imprison you. High vibe energy wants people to be more independent and be free from love and truth, to stand up for a higher truth and justice. And sometimes we get in situations, or there again can be workplaces and or people we know that are doing things that are unjust and unfair, are manipulative, are deceptive. Are we going to just create the illusion and that, oh no, they're a picture perfect person? Not like anybody's picture perfect, but we might create an illusion that someone's more just, fair, balanced, and loving than they really are. But we know they have mental conflict about the truth, about doing love, that they just kind of like to indulge themselves in a relationship, that they really don't like to put in work and effort, like to be in it so long as it works for them. But if anybody else wants to give birth to anything new or have them become independent of a certain way of living life or viewing life or habits or vices or whatever that they indulge or something, they're never going to do that. It'll only be as long as whatever kind of manipulates them is okay with it. And sometimes that can be friends and family. Oh, I'm more codependent on my friend or family group, but I can't marry them, so I will get in a relationship or marry you. But oh, by the way, if anybody in that friend or family group at some future date says, I don't like them, I think you should let those people go. I think those people are different. We could harness this in a more worldly view of life, and the person you could be in a relationship with harnesses it from a more worldly view of life, and none of them could be more independent. None of them could be more balanced within themselves. And if they decide, I don't think you should move forward with those people or in that job or in that friendship, that's when some of the people are like, I was hiding that I have these things within me or people in my life that kind of emotionally manipulate me, and I have mental conflict about speaking my truth or standing up for myself and being more independent of them. And then you can be in friendship or relationship or at a job where you realize people are kind of indulging someone or something, that people aren't more independent, or they keep trying to hide the truth, or none of them become more independent. And that's when you work through your own mental conflict out of love for yourself. My dream can't come into reality here. It's kind of more group think, beehive think. Nobody wants other people to be more independent, shine their authentic light, don't want to be loving and encouraging to people who do things, don't act like they act, don't dress like they dress, don't conform to the world the way they conform to the world. And other people are like, you do that. I've worked through all of it. I accept the truth of it, got out of my ego about it, got over my fear of leaving it, and I am going to be more independent. In my high vibe Aquarius and Libra and Gemini and Pisces energy, I'm going to listen to my intuition, and my intuition tells me my dream is going to come into reality here. And same way, if some people say you get out of something and you're moving forward in life, and you could meet someone who really does, that you could think and maybe is more just, fair, balanced, but they're in a relationship. Well, then that person is just like a role model for the next person you'd like to be in a relationship with. But you're not going to stay in shadowy energy, conflicted, and like as if you're just going to wait for that other relationship to end. It's to believe that some things don't work out for us because at the big picture, we're not the boss. If people believe that, there's a higher force at play. God knows our truth. God knows other people's truth. And we can be like, no, 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 I'm just going to wait. I have fear of doing anything differently. I don't want to become independent of this cycle or someone. And if they're in a relationship with someone else, I'm just going to wait. I'm sure eventually it'll end. They'll come back or something. You can sit there all your life doing that. It's like love yourself enough to accept the truth. The Five of Swords comes after the Four of Swords, which is reflecting on the truth, accepting the truth. Everybody, even though we might have not wanted to see it, everybody is kind of investing in what their truth is at any given moment and what they think is just and fair. And it's also trying to get us to see the truth of how we might have wanted to move things forward and how other people wanted to move things forward, and it wasn't the same. There's a conflict about the truth. And in a typical Six of Swords, which is Aquarius energy, trying to move a dream forward. The 5 is Aquarius energy. We add the 1, we get the 6. We move something forward with a common truth. With some of the people, things aren't moving forward because we don't have that common truth. Our truth is different. Kind of what drives and motivates us, things that we might not know. Some people do have some things hidden beneath the surface that they don't even know. Pisces can talk about these things buried in our subconscious that we don't even realize how much those affect how we think about ourselves, how we feel about ourselves, these different philosophies of life that we have, how we could repeat, and that can be the shadowy road, that we keep repeating a certain pattern, and we'll keep repeating that pattern until we're willing to deal with the truth of something that we haven't wanted to see the truth of, which could just be, I keep repeating a certain pattern. I keep getting in certain type of friendships or relationships with people where it doesn't move forward. Why do I keep getting in friendships and relationships with those kind of people? Or I keep repeating certain habits and patterns. Why do I keep repeating those certain habits and patterns that don't work out for me? Willing to do this inner work, to work through it, to figure out, again, kind of what do I need to see the truth of? What kind of manipulates me? How do I indulge myself in more shadowy energy? How do I indulge other people in more shadowy energy? If I'm indulging myself in shadowy energy, I'm going to find people to be in a relationship with that are happy that I do. If I indulge other people in shadowy energy, how do I expect to get the justice I deserve? It's maintaining balance within yourself to stand up for your truth, to love yourself, to work through your mental conflict of standing up for your truth of what you think is just and fair, not indulging poor behavior in yourself or others, because that's not the kind of more imbalanced, mismatched relationship I want to be in. And that can require you to invest in loving and believing in yourself, working through your own fears and insecurities, being more independent instead of being more codependent, where we can want these things of the world, friendship and relationship, and because we want those things, we kind of compromise our truth because we think like that'll be the answer. It's like, no, that's not the answer. The answer is for you to live your truth and stand up for your truth, walk your talk, and listen to your intuition about different people you meet. And there's going to be some people who are not going to move forward with you unless you're in more shadowy energy. Some people you people have already moved on from. They're waiting for you to come on back, to give up on yourself, to quit loving and believing in yourself and do it the way they want you to do it. And it's like, I've already been there and done that. It was not aligned with my truth. But some of those people don't want to see the truth of it. Oh no, I'm sure they'll be back. I'll just do this and that and create an illusion that I've moved on, but they could still be waiting for people to come back to be in a relationship with them. They might have stability, a security, a certain status or image. And of course, if that is what they think is the most important thing that people want in the world, because they might have those things, or they're attractive or charming or good looking or whatever, they could think, oh no, people will be back. The other people are more motivated and inspired to be in a relationship with people who are more balanced within themselves. Yes, can we all want these things of the world, but I equally want people to work together with me cooperatively from love. And if that seemed to be lacking here, and taking action in truth and love, well, then can I have mental conflict about leaving behind some people that I could have loved, but I didn't feel like they worked together with me in that way? Sure. But I accept the truth. They have a different philosophy of life, of how to treat people, maybe. So I'm going to take action in my truth. And in high vibe, it would be taking action, listening to love and intuition to guide me, see the truth of people who I've tried to work with in that way, and that doesn't seem to be their truth. Then I wish you peace. I get out of my ego about it. They offer love to the situation and themselves to heal. And then from the 3 to the 9, it's taking back the 6 of Cups. And the 6 of Cups is Scorpio energy, which in high vibe is about deep, meaningful relationships. I can't have a deep, meaningful relationship with someone who is more about themselves or the world, or more emotionally shallow or superficial, or likes to live more from their mind than their heart and use their emotions in a more manipulative way. It's either motivated to work together with truth and love, or it's not. And so you work through all of that, and as you do that work within yourself, which can all take time, eventually you work through all of it, and you have become emotionally independent. And that's kind of interesting too, because Scorpio, which is between here and here, and Taurus, and shadowy energy in general, can be represented by shadowy Leo, our ego, and Aquarius are all fixed sign energy. It can be really hard. We tap into our Aquarius, our Leo, our Scorpio, our Taurus. I think that's all 4. When we're in the midst of working on something. But as we're working on something, some people are motivated to keep growing and healing and maturing themselves. Some people aren't. Or they want to keep doing the same thing over and over. And other people are like, well, that keeps me kind of dead and stagnant. Or I feel like it tries to oppress me or confine me or restrict me. And I can't be free to really live my more authentic life in love. And I'm offering truth and love to other people to move forward with me. But if that's not their truth, that's not their truth. And Virgo and Pisces are some of the zodiac sign traits and characteristics in our worldly nature and our emotional nature. Putting in that work and effort emotionally and connecting in with our emotions and our intuition to kind of see through the illusion and the fear and the insecurities that are kind of manipulating us and others. And I don't want that to keep manipulating me. And if they want to let that keep manipulating them, they can. But I'm shedding a layer of myself to give birth to like the next more emotionally mature, independent, less fearful, less insecure, whatever worldly nature of myself. Just like I shed being 15 and 18 and 21 and 25. There's certain patterns of ways of interacting in relationships that I don't want to do anymore. I've changed. I have worked through some of my own fears, insecurities, codependent nature, not loving and believing in myself or whatever it was, and I'm ready to move forward differently. And I'm looking for other people who are ready to do that too. And some people aren't, and some people do. And you keep moving forward with the people who do, and the other people kind of drop out of your life. Some of them, others of them can be loving and encouraging. Oh, you go do that. No, that's not how. And again, sometimes we're at different ages and stages of life. You go invest in your dreams. You go do that. I'm kind of going to live my life like this and I'm fine. This is okay for me. Or I'm older. I wish I would have done that when I was younger. You go do that. And they can still be loving and encouraging people in your life. But the people who could be upset that you weren't willing to keep investing in an illusion, those people are probably upset that you left and that you weren't willing to keep creating an illusion of how wonderful things were when you feel it's more not maybe just and fair and balanced. So what's coming out for some people who harness some high vibe Aquarius energy? that they might not see coming. And we all tap into Aquarius energy, so if you're dealing with an Aquarius sun sign, you could be the one who harnesses high vibe Aquarius and not them, you know? If you're an Aquarius sun sign, you know, you're dealing with other people in the world in their Aquarius energy. They have their idea of the dream life, and it's just to listen to your intuition, you know, kind of, are you on the same page? Is it more about conforming to the world, about creating an illusion of how wonderful your life is, being more codependent, staying in your fear and insecurity? What's coming up for the high vibe people they don't see coming? The Page of Cups. Why? Because of the Page of Cups. Well, the Page of Cups, you can, in high vibe, it's being authentic, trying to work together with people in a just and fair way, offering love. And that's how high vibe people free themselves from things that are shadowy. They can keep investing in things, feeling kind of backstabbed and betrayed. Well, they could repeat that pattern. Then they could try to change other people. Well, eventually people kind of see the truth. Why am I trying to change other people? Why don't I wish them peace? You know, you can be in relationships where people try to change you to make your truth more aligned with their truth. You could be trying to get them to align more with your truth. And it's like, you know what? You have the free will. I see our truth is different. You're kind of more about this. I'm kind of more about that. You like this. I like that. Blah, blah, blah. And that's where the high vibe people are like, I'm going to offer peace to the situation. Our truth is different. What could make some people feel stable and secure and balanced within themselves is it's kind of like, you can't make people step into the spotlight of their own life, work through all their fears or insecurities, you know, or to whatever degree you might have, if that's not where they're at. You know, just like when we were younger at different ages, we could have known people who were more mature, more stable, more balanced, and creative and inspired and bold and brave and confident than we were. And they can, you know, all they could do is offer us peace and love. We can be a loving and encouraging person to people in our life. But, you know, we're not going to live our life like that. You know, like people, you know, kind of more stay in the friend zone. You know, I wish you peace. I see that your life is different than my life. And we know people right now, workplaces, neighborhood, communities, family, they live their life a certain way. Do we want to live our life that way? No. Do they want to live their life our way? No. Can we still wish each other peace? Yeah. You know, it just depends. The people who might get a little bit more in their ego about it, or competitive energy, or you know, can be more shadowy energy, can be more jealous and envious or whatever. Could be jealous that you're more independent, that less things manipulate you than manipulate them, and could wish that they could move forward differently, but, you know, everybody's got different lessons to learn in life, or they made their free will choices. Anytime in our life we can change our free will choices. When we're willing to stop investing in things that we know aren't more aligned with our truth, or us growing and healing and maturing ourselves and loving ourselves, and, you know, that's when the wheel of fate goes in our favor. Otherwise, we just keep repeating an old pattern, hoping things will work out differently this time. I don't have to change. You know, if we got in certain friendships and relationships with people that were more mismatched, we do have to see the truth. There's some reason why we got in that friendship and relationship. There's a reason why we were drawn and attracted to those people. What is it that drew and attracted me to those people, that I got in it and I stayed in it? Or you know, that's what sets you free. Because otherwise you could go repeat it, just go get in a different job, friendship, or relationship. You know, we have to be willing to see the truth. And partly it could be, you know, learning to love yourself. Because again, we want these friendships and relationships because we want people, you know, it's part of being a human being. We want community and friendship and relationship. But are we compromising our truth to be in those friendships or relationships? And again, we can be in relationships with people and we don't get in a more involved relationship with them if we shouldn't get in a more involved relationship with them. But we can enjoy them. They can be friends. It can be supportive community. Our people at our workplace, people in our neighborhood, people in our family. They can all be supportive people that help us feel more stable and balanced within ourselves while we do this work within ourselves to heal. But some people think if a little bit is good, more is better. I'm going to get in a more involved relationship with some of those people. I might marry some of those people. And those people, or whatever, it wasn't the answer. It was about learning to love yourself. And if you feel like people are being bossy or controlling or deceptive or manipulative or competitive or prideful or envious or jealous, why aren't you in relationships that are more just, fair, balanced, loving, and peaceful? When people are creating a little hell on earth, I think in a world of duality, because we have free will choice, if someone's creating a little hell on earth, that means God's creating something that's different, because you have to have free will choice. But you have to be willing to detach from people who are creating a little hell on earth to go get the justice you deserve. Will those things like miraculously appear in your life immediately? For some people, maybe. For some people, not. But it can all be a time to heal, not being in those situations where people were creating a little hell on earth. To heal, to be at peace within yourself, to love yourself, to go invest more time, energy, and effort into people who do work together with you in a more just and fair way. And then as you take time away, because the Wheel of Fortune can be moving away from people who seem to be kind of shadowy, as you take that time, eventually, you work through the emotional confusion and illusion and become more independent of those people. And it's like, that's not my truth anymore. And then as you do that, and the pages can also be about just friendly gestures to get to know people. And as you're living your life, other people, there's gonna be other shadowy people who want to be the next person to indulge in a relationship with you. And if you keep maintaining balance within yourself, willing to get to know people, but not being tempted in your more worldly, egoic pride, ego, codependent, lustful, greedy nature, the shadowy people will come to kind of realize that you're not willing to invest in an illusion, not willing to compromise your truth to indulge someone and maybe be tempted more by these more shadowy things. And that it's going to have to be someone who's more willing to be truthful, just, fair, balanced. Some of those people will do that. Some of those people won't. But at least you won't get yourself tangled up emotionally in something that you shouldn't have been, just been repeating the old pattern. I'm going to keep working with the people who want to work together with me in this just and fair way. If you want to be truthful and authentic, and then there could be other people who know that you could go repeat this pattern. If you wanted to be more about ego or image or create some illusion about your life, you could probably go get in a relationship with people if you wanted. And other people see that you're not doing that. And they know they could do that too. And some of them will be like, why would I do that? Why don't I love and believe in myself too? Here's someone who seems to, be just and fair, consistent, isn't more manipulative or prideful or stubborn or full of themselves, or is who they say they are. Why don't I go get to know them more? And then you meet more people who are more on the same page as you. And I think you'll meet people. When we quit investing more of our time and energy into the people who aren't aligned with our truth, it frees us up. It's kind of like the divine would like to bring the things it wants to bring into your life. But as long as you're like, no, I'm going to keep doing this. No, that's like you saying no. to the universe. No, 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 I'm sure I can make this work. No, 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 I'm sure they'll change. No, 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 I'm sure this will all be okay. It's like your high vibe energy and high vibe energy in the world is waiting to work with you, but it needs you to quit repeating old patterns, quit investing in old ways of being, heal, and then you're ready to deal with people. And sometimes it's interesting. I would kind of think with most of us that, you can be a loving person, but we'll all repeat certain patterns and it kind of keeps us in our comfort zone. Like, no, I think this is just and fair. I should try to change these people. And I'm used to dealing with people who might be more whatever way of being. And people who are more loving, which is kind of aligned with my truth, but I'm not used to being in relationships with people who treat me the way I treat them. That's kind of outside my comfort zone. So at times in our life, we could have not moved forward with people who were more authentic and just and fair and loving because that was different. We were kind of used to being in relationships with people who were more emotionally manipulative and maybe a little bit more about themselves or bossy or controlling or whatever. And eventually people get to be, why am I getting in relationships with people? I'm done trying to change people. If they show me they're more whatever, and I've already been in relationships with people who are like that way, if they're more immature, if they're more codependent, if they like to live more from their mind than their heart, if they're not very authentic, if they're more materialistic, if they're more secretive, if they're less authentic. I've already been in relationships with people like that. But partly by being in relationships with people like that, and you trying to be loving and encouraging to help people work through their fears and insecurities or self-learning beliefs, eventually you kind of get to where you are like, you know what, I do deserve to be in a relationship with someone who treats me the way I treat them. And that's when we're ready. We've kind of seen the truth. Instead of trying to change people. And again, you can grow up being a loving person thinking, oh no, I'm supposed to help other people heal and grow and change and mature themselves. No, you're supposed to offer people truth and love and see the truth of where they're at. And if they have traits and characteristics and ways of acting or behaving that aren't aligned with your truth, you don't get in a more involved relationship. You keep them in the friend zone. And that's what some high vibe people are doing now. And some high vibe people in your life, you and them, have now learned that lesson. I'm going to work with the people in my life who work together with me that way. We're not trying to change each other. We're working together to be loving and encouraging. And we take responsibility for seeing when things need to change with, that it's, you do this work within yourself. It's not looking for someone else to try to change you or make, people can be loving and encouraging and respecting each other as their own individual and that everybody's got free will. But, I'm going to invest more in the people who make that free will choice to work together more cooperatively. And I think you'll meet other people who are on that same page. What's coming out for some people who might harness a more worldly, shadowy Aquarius energy they don't see coming? The King of Cups, the Knight of Pentacles, the Knight of Cups, and the reason is because of the Nine of Swords. Well, again, instead of being more balanced, some people, it's all like a strategy because they really haven't become independent of being more about themselves, living more from their mind and their heart, don't want to maybe do love. So they could be really stressed out as other loving people invest in believing in themselves and believing in their dreams, and those people move on. Those people had been in their life trying to offer them truth and love to get them to move forward with them, but they're kind of unwilling to come out from behind their false mask. I view the King of Cups as Cancer energy. They might be people who, again, shadowy energy can be tried to present themselves. I'm this just and fair person, motivated and inspired by love. Because Cancer is about love of self and love of others. But it's more of a mental strategy and a false mask they wear. But they're really offering people things of the world. Won't you come get in a relationship with me? Aren't you stressed out? Don't you want to be in a friendship or relationship? I'll wear my false mask that I'm motivated and inspired by love, but what I offer you is more these things of the world. I'll have sex with you. I'll be your friend. I'll be in a relationship with you. I'll marry you. I have money, status, image, whatever. You can have part of it. But the people who are more inspired emotionally by their dreams instead of living more from their mind than their heart are going to move on. And they could always be stressed out and they might not understand it. You know, if they think, well, I look like love, I quack like love, I'm willing to work together, be in a relationship with people. It's just the problem is I'm not really willing to jump in the water. I'm not willing to connect more in with my emotions and my intuition to guide me. I like to live more from my mind than my heart. Well, that can be a way of trying to kind of manipulate and control people. And for one, they should quit trying to get in relationships with people who they know are more motivated and inspired by love, if they know that's not their truth. If you know you're more about money and image and status, but they don't really want to be in a relationship with someone like themselves. Because it's nice to be in relationships with people who are more tempered in their ego and just and fair and loving and encouraging. And they want to seem like they're that type of person. But it doesn't work out. You know, if you're really more about yourself or you're more about these things of the world, quit trying to manipulate people who you know are more motivated and inspired by love and go invest in people who you think might be more caught up in the world. Want to be in a friendship to be in a friendship. Be in a relationship to be in a relationship. More for the status, the ego, the image. Want to just indulge in a relationship. Go get in a relationship with someone like that. Maybe they'll stay in it. Because if it has these things of the world that I want, and I have someone to be in friendship and relationship with, and, you know, if we get along well enough, you know, maybe everybody would stay in it. I mean, I don't, that's not, I wouldn't recommend that to people. You know, I think you should live your truth from love and listen to your intuition. If you really want, you know, not to live a life of illusion. But for the people who do want to live a life of illusion, then go find other people who you think are caught up more in those things. There's no guarantee those people will stay in a relationship. Because, you know, for one, if people are in a relationship and, you know, you kind of, shadowy energy can be where one person has to indulge the other person more so. Well, shadowy energy is shadowy. I want it to be more about me. I want to put in less work and effort. I want to be more lazy. I want to be more indulged. I want more attention. I want more money. I want more status. I want more image. You know, if it's not, you build a sturdy foundation on love. If people aren't in it because of love, this just seems like a good investment for now. Let's do this for now. Well, whatever it is that ultimately drives and motivates them, they'll probably leave for that. Is that person willing to require less of me? Is that person willing to more indulge me instead of me having to indulge this person? Is that person willing to more indulge me than this person is? I think it's a lose-lose situation. If it's not based on truth and love, you know, and then you can get in a shadowy relationship where everyone is trying to manipulate and control and hope the other person doesn't love and believe in themselves. And so then they do these kind of shadowy, underhanded things to cause fear and insecurity in that person. So they keep staying in the relationship and don't go anywhere because neither of them are willing to grow and heal and mature themselves. It's kind of like living in hell, it sounds like to me, but anyway, there you go, Aquarius. I wish you peace, love, and joy, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.